presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. If you're a business owner out there, Federated's here to help protect you against risks and also to help maximize the success of your business with all sorts of tools and resources, people who've specialized in certain fields. So find the full list of industries Federated protects at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Jake Ward via the Score North app. I had recently commented that I believe Kwesi was a bit in over his head, and I had some skepticism. But after watching his press conference this week and the Zadarius Smith, well, he's talking about both the last two press conferences, sure. I think Kwesi is going to be legit. He's young and outgoing, and I believe the ability to relate to players, free agents, etc. will be a huge benefit to Minnesota. Spielman was a solid GM, but it felt like he was the father watching over his young with a couple buttons undone. With Kwesi, I feel like it's a friend-to-friend relationship. I'm stoked for the team, and I think KOC, Rob Brzezinski, and Kwesi will be just what the team needed. That's the general – like, this is where, again, a couple things can be true here. I'm not in love with running it back, but I also think that Kwesi seems to have all of the attributes that Jake, the commenter here, just threw out there. He seems very relatable, very smart. I like being collaborative. I think you got to be careful not letting too many voices infiltrate. But generally, I think the organization is in great hands with him, despite them competing for the 7 seed again.
So I don't like how they are doing things as a whole, but that's not fair to say that that's a reflection on one person or two. So my whole thing with Kwesi is the exact same as it was with Bill Guerin, right? Which is like, this is going to take some time. I get that. I have the feeling, and just from stuff that we've heard, Phil, that Kwesi isn't necessarily being allowed to execute his plan as he would like exactly, which I think he should be. But I've tried to make it extremely clear. I don't think it's fair to sit here and hammer him. Like, we don't know yet. He could be great. He could be terrible. We have no clue. I mean, to judge him, to have a hot take on him, I think is going to take at least a year. At least a year, if not more. But some of the stuff that we've heard about how they have elected to do things as a whole frightens me, because if you trust Kwesi, I think that you should trust him. And it certainly appears that right now there are a lot of people trying to get their opinions in. And I will say this, there are people with that team who have been around a long time who I don't trust.
Yeah, I think
so. Big difference there, though, between the whole and just saying this one guy stinks or doesn't know. That's not fair yet. That's not even close to being fair yet.
I will say I dropped I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I dropped a video on the Score North TikTok account. Or is it on there? I don't know. The video I sent yesterday. I don't know. We do a lot of TikTok stuff. So
but you dropped it?
TikTok. But I threw a video out yesterday saying, here are the 2 things I like best about, even though I'm not in love with running it back, the 2 things I like best about what Kwesi has done so far.
Yeah.
He has prioritized offense and passing attack with the hiring of Kevin O'Connell, build a relationship with Cousins, bring Thielen back. Mm-hmm. We're gonna maximize passing and maximize the offense. So that's priority number 1. And then the big move in free agency so far is Zadarius Smith, one of the best, when healthy, edge rushers in the NFL. Pass rush and passing game. Those are the most important things in 2022 NFL. And those are basically the first 2 things that he did, the big things. There's been some other little things here, bringing Harrison Phillips, whatever. So I like that. Like, that's how you should be thinking. Put money into passing game and messing up the opposing team's passing game. Jeffrey Curry via the Score North app says, big fan of the show, appreciate the daily content. I'm excited to sign Zadarius Smith for his talent, of course, but I think the most underrated aspect to free agency so far has been the emphasis on not just high character guys, but also vocal leaders. The defense has added high character guys the last few years, but really lacked a true vocal leader, especially on defense. Bringing in Harrison Phillips and Jordan Hicks and now Zadarius, in my opinion, completely changes the attitude of this defense. Curious about your thoughts and excited to see what else happens this offseason.
Yes, I think Hicks is fantastic. I think Hicks is great. Smith seems like he will definitely be a positive. I would say this, though, just as far as what Spielman did. I wouldn't sell short behind the scenes, because we were not in the locker room, and we don't know a lot behind the scenes in 2021. I wouldn't sell Patrick Peterson short. I think Patrick Peterson was probably very positive. He is, just because he probably doesn't scream and yell does not mean that he didn't bring a professional approach and didn't help guys. He strikes me as the type of guy, total guess here though, that would definitely have been a positive influence. So I think in that one, the Vikings hit on a guy that probably brought what he's talking about. But yes, it seems like the three guys that they have signed definitely are going to be vocal, definitely are going to be good additions in the locker room. But we're trending right now to try to criticize the previous administration so much. And we continue to say this. They take blame. So I'm not absolving them. But it's not like they didn't bring in a guy in Peterson who had a lot of time in this league and probably did a lot of good as far as his approach to it.
Yep. Tim Lindner via the Score North app says, I'm a bit baffled that on your latest episode you talk about how involved the Wilfs are being involved in the moves, and yet a month and a half ago you were bashing them for how they were absentee owners, not knowing that the GM and the coach were on non-speaking terms for several months. So is there a happy place for you guys on how involved the owners should be? How much is too much and how much is not enough?
For a long time, they did a fantastic job. We praised them up and down for a long time, and they deserved it because they were involved, they cared deeply, they paid attention, and yet I never felt until now like they consistently ever weighed in on football moves, which they shouldn't do. Like, it's fine to run stuff past them, but big picture, they hire these people to run their team because they ultimately are fans. The criticism, at least from my end in recent months, has been what appears to me to be an overcorrection to the fact that it's pretty clear that other things in 2021 caused them to sort of lose track of the Vikings, including the fact, and this has not been contradicted once yet, that they didn't know that their head coach and GM simply had stopped talking. So do I want them to be involved and to say collaboration? We got to get everybody involved in football moves? Absolutely not. Do I want them to not overcorrect because they think they screwed up? Yes. And it feels like they've now overcorrected. And I hope it goes back to what he just said, which is a place of a happy medium.
So my line's actually pretty clear cut. I get why they want to be somewhat involved because it's their team and they're passionate and they just fired everybody, so they're just you're going to be sort of hands-on as you try to mold this new culture going forward. There's a reason why you made this big change. You're not just going to make the change and then like, okay, see ya, we're going to go back to New Jersey. We'll be down in South Florida hanging out. You go run the franchise. Like, you're going to be sort of hands-on. And where what I'm about to say, like, we don't know for sure like the exact nature of some of these conversations, but if you have thoughts on like 30,000 foot thoughts on the direction of the franchise and you want to relay those thoughts, okay. Like, if you want to say, boy, we would really prefer to not go into like 3 years of tanking for business reasons, it's just not our franchise. Like 60 years of Vikings football, you can count on one hand how many real train wreck seasons they've had, and we would rather not risk going into a Lions-like rebuild. So take that information, push forward with it however you will. Okay. Mm-hmm. If they cross the line of having an opinion on personnel, like Jerry Jones has done oftentimes throughout the last 25 years, if you have a take on, I mean, Jim Irsay did this on Carson Wentz, right? Jim Irsay with the Colts, and by the way, I think he's right. Carson Wentz is kind of a train wreck, but like Jim Irsay came in and said, I don't want him to be the quarterback anymore.
Right.
I think you got to take a step back from having actual like football personnel takes if you're an owner, because you're a fan. Like, you're a billionaire, but you're a fan.
Right.
So if the Wilfs came in and said, we want Kirk Cousins to be the starting quarterback, I have a problem with it. But if the Wilfs came in and said, we really want the team to be as competitive as possible in 2022 while thinking about the future, okay, I could disagree with that, but it's more of a 30,000 foot directive as opposed to you can't get rid of Harrison Smith, which, again, I don't know that they said that.
The guy that nailed this, I think a little more than halfway through the season, was Alex Boone. He's the one that said, and he was right, and I thought he was wrong. But it really appeared, just to put this in the simplest terms possible, that the Wilfs lost track of their team. I don't know how. I'm shocked, but Alex broached that, and
He
I
kind of broke it.
well, he kind of broke it, and I think it was all proven pretty much correct, right, Phil?
Yeah. Yeah, his sense was right. I mean, shocking. A guy who's been in the NFL, played in the Super Bowl for 10 years. He knows that building. He was there for a season and a half or whatever it is. That he would have a sense of it. Speaking of buildings, there's a Mayo Clinic building. Not sure if you guys have seen it, downtown Minneapolis.
Right across from Target Center.
They are accepting patients, and we are partnering with them here on Mackey and Judd to tell the world, if you're a weekend warrior athlete, you can be seen by the same care team that the pros trust, the same clinic and the same team that helps some of the best professional athletes in Minnesota with injury care, rehab, optimizing performance. You can make an appointment with those people. That expert care is offered to all levels of athletes, from the elite to the everyday. So request an appointment at sportsmedicine.mayoclinic.org. sportsmedicine.mayoclinic.org. Let's see here. Feedback Friday. You got a couple more here. Steve Weiner via the Score North app. Competitive rebuild. But he's never going to live that one down, right? I don't think he realized.
Well,
that is a trigger phrase, baby. It's everywhere too. Newspapers.
do you? Okay, quick conspiracy theory. To give Kwesi some credit here, do you think he knew exactly what he was doing with the use of that term?
I think he threw it out on a whim.
Okay, because I was just going to say,
he threw it out on a whim.
The way that's being played up, I would take that. If I had told the Wilfs, I don't like this idea, and they're like, well, this is what we're going to do. And it's like, okay, I would take this back and say, this is the problem with it, boys, gentlemen.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I'm throwing this out as a complete spitball because you're right. It's hot on fire.
He's so new to this job. He has so much on his plate, just trying to clear cap space, and that I think if he had been around for 5 or 10 years, then you're at the level of, oh, I can do Jedi mind tricks with the media. I don't think he's thinking about that.
I think you're right. I think it's interesting that this is I think you could now take this back and say, all right, this is the problem with this. It doesn't make any sense. You see, I put it out there. It doesn't make any sense.
So Steve comments here, competitive rebuild sounds like a much classier way to say continually compete for the 6th or 7th seed in the playoffs.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure, given their many years as owners, that the Wilfs' main goal is to play meaningful games in December, and that simply means some playoff drama to keep butts in seats all 17 games and season ticket sales not going backwards. And then Dan Doherty follows up in the YouTube comment section. Mackey and Judd love the show. Keep it up. Thank you, Dan. A facet of football I never hear you guys talk about is that it's a business. It's not just about winning. It's about making money. Is a long-term competitive team like the Vikings worth more than one Super Bowl win? What franchises make the most money, and how much is a win worth? So to partially answer that question, NFL teams are essentially guaranteed a profit, not counting the pandemic year or two where there just weren't fans in the seats. But with the salary cap structure in place, every team is capped at spending $208 million on their team. There's also a floor you have to get to so the players don't get screwed out of money. But teams like big market teams like the Giants and Dallas that have just a wider reach, they sell more merchandise, they just have, you're probably able to charge more money for tickets because there's more people and a limited amount of seats. So supply is limited, demand goes up.
Right.
Those franchises are literally raking in like $500 million per year in profit.
Right.
And they're protected. Baseball's different because baseball doesn't have a salary cap. And so like the Yankees, like the Mets right now with Steve Cohen, he feels pressure to spend and add players to get butts in seats. And so he's going to spend $300 million on a roster and maybe, who knows, maybe come close to taking a loss. Right. NFL owners basically can't lose money. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely fair. And those that during the pandemic showed a loss have tortured their books beyond belief to do so. The TV contracts now are so huge, and that's all shared. So no, like it's not like if the Vikings got bad for a year or two, like, oh my God, it's a disaster. Now they're still going to sell seats. They're still going to make a ton. So, and I think we actually do talk about it as a business more than most shows do, as far as the brutality of it and cutthroat nature that exists. But yeah, this isn't the Twins where if you get bad, you're screwed. This is a league where the TV contracts are worth billions of dollars, and everybody from the Green Bay Packers to the Dallas Cowboys to the Giants all share in that, which is why they're all going to be just fine and basically print money.
I mean, how about this? So we actually referenced this on one of our shows this week, but the 2021 NFL valuations list on Forbes, which takes into account the 2020 pandemic season into the early part of 2021. So this is like the lowest attendance season basically in NFL history, like in the Super Bowl era, because there were like US Bank Stadium was empty all year.
Right.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, coming out of the pandemic, the worst dumpster fire franchise, cleared $70 million in net operating income.
Yeah.
The Jaguars.
Yeah, because you got
now some teams claimed a loss and the others, but the Dallas Cowboys cleared $280 million in net operating income coming out of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So the NFL, whether you're the Cowboys or the Jaguars, the Rams cleared $40 million coming out of the pandemic. These franchises rake money.
Yeah.
So now, is it helpful that the Vikings, whether they're trying to or not, is it helpful that they're always like providing drama in December? Yeah, but I think if they were to go on and win a Super Bowl and take their brand to the next level, like there's another level to the Vikings business that only gets unlocked if they start winning Super Bowls.
Right. And right now or around now is the perfect time to take that shot because your stadium's still new. Like you are raking in. Think about the difference in profit just on game day from the Metrodome to now. You have a practice facility that's absolutely gorgeous. And if you have the cap room, if you could clear out cap space right now, if you could tell Kirk, hey, you're taking a huge pay cut, you're going to make $5 or something like that. Do you know the number of players who would come here to play? The facility is gorgeous. The stadium is gorgeous. Yes, you have to spend the fall and part of the winter here, but you're a millionaire. Like and you can leave as soon as the season's done. So like this would be a absolutely, I think, opportune time to let Kwesi do exactly what he wants and take a shot and think about it too. Like, and we've talked about this before. What happens if this team wins a Super Bowl?
Oh,
I don't even know.
I honestly think they become a much bigger brand nationally. Because there are a lot of Vikings fans, and we see it. I mean, Purple Daily has opened our eyes to just how many Vikings fans are scattered around the country.
You're right.
And if you look at the biggest revenue-driving teams in the NFL, and this is a somewhat outdated list, I'm sure we'll get the new Forbes list in the next couple months. The Dallas Cowboys, these are teams that bring in the most revenue. And by the way, like Judd said, there aren't local TV deals.
Yeah.
At scale, like in baseball, it's all national money. So that money is split evenly. So when teams make a jump in revenue, it's their own brand, it's merchandise, it's their ticket sales, everything in the NFL. So the Dallas Cowboys, among the top 5 or 6 teams, it includes the Cowboys, the Patriots, the Rams, the Raiders, and Washington. The Texans snuck in here somehow too, but also, I mean, it's the state of Texas, so there's just a lot more opportunities for revenue. But what do those teams have in common? The Cowboys have had 2 different dynasties that built 2 generations of fans around the country. The Patriots, 20-year dynasty, built all these fans around the country. The Raiders, you got to go back a generation, but and they've had a cool brand even when they've been bad. But the Raiders built a generation of fans around the country. Super Bowls. Washington, same thing, 80s and early 90s. So, yeah, I think if the Vikings were to win a Super Bowl, you'd see their brand jump. Like you would just see more Vikings fans around the country.
I think you're probably right.
So, one more here. Feedback Friday. Taylor Norland via the Score North app says, I feel like your framing of the Wilfs is off. The prevailing theory is that they want to be the Steelers and Giants. Rather than hearing why running it back won't work, it would be awesome to hear you compare and contrast the quarterbacks and coaches of those franchises. So Cousins versus Eli and Ben Roethlisberger, going back to their Super Bowls. Zimmer versus Coughlin and Tomlin, and now O'Connell. Well, the biggest difference is Eli and Coughlin won 2 Super Bowls together. And Ben and Tomlin won Super Bowls together and never finished below 500 together either, 15 years. So the Vikings are sort of a diet. They've got the stability and they've got their brand is fairly well recognized, but the Vikings are diet Pittsburgh. They are Giants light at this point.
So does Ben want us to say that the Vikings are on that path? I guess I'm slightly confused by his question or statement.
I think if I could interpret it, I think he's wondering so they want to be the Steelers and the Giants.
They definitely
and they've had some stability for the most part, but like what is the difference? I mean, the difference is the Giants have paid it off.
Yeah. And the difference is the fact that Coughlin became a tyrant and the players said, you've got to stop. And he's like, oh, okay. And Mike got worse. Yeah. Unfortunately, the difference is that despite the fact that there have been comparisons, Eli had a clutch gene that Kirk does not have, in my opinion, and Kirk has certainly not shown that. So, but I mean, the Wilfs are, look, this all comes back to exactly why I don't want them overly involved in football decisions. The Wilfs are massive Giants fans, and they are massive football fans. We are too. That's awesome. We happen to not own a football team. I don't think it is a good idea. I think some of the problems are they get too caught up in being fans and right now have crossed a line that I think is going to impede them from potentially reaching what they want to. But they look at the Giants and think, how can we be the Giants? How can we do this? How can we do that? And the reality is, first of all, some of that stuff is way in the past. So the game has changed. The sport has definitely changed. And the reality is, I mean, Mike got the job because Bill Parcells recommended him. Mm-hmm. Bill Parcells is a hero. The Wilfs love Lawrence Taylor, Bill Parcells, Giants football, Ed McCaffrey. But I mean, make no mistake, the reason that Mike at the podium referenced Parcells almost constantly wasn't because he thought, I'm going to tell the media this. It was to send a message to the Wilfs. I'm still talking to Bill, and I'm a big deal. Is that a big deal? I mean, the fact that it impressed the Wilfs to me does scream fan, and that's where you run into, I think, some of the problems. But just so we can be extremely clear, and next Friday we don't get a note saying, why do you guys hate the Wilfs? I respect a lot of what they've done. Like, you could have sold this team when Red sold this club to far worse people. So I do think overall they've done a nice job. Do they frustrate me at times? Certainly. But I don't want the interpretation to be that we think the Wilfs suck. They do not.
Yep. No, I think that's all a fair characterization. I mean, the Eli Cousins thing, yeah, I mean, they're both, you could say statistically they're the same or Cousins is better. Well, yeah, but when you get to the playoffs as a 9-win team or a 10-win team, who rose up more? I mean, Eli Manning has. So, all right, we got to run. We got to get to Purple Daily. So check us out over there too. Please click subscribe on the Score North YouTube channel and the Purple Daily YouTube channel. We're almost to 40,000 combined subscribers. So thank you guys. We'll see you guys on Monday, Mackey and Judd.